Today, Ontario government has announced the funding of 7.6 million to the Peel Police and the Peel Police Services Board. And most of this funding will be utilized for tackling the mental health issues and for the addiction issues. So great announcement. Let's see the full report, what Mayor and what Police and what Ontario government has to say on this.
We know that criminals have become more sophisticated, more organized, and more dangerous. We see this far too often in Brampton and in Peel region, where scumbags are knocking on the windows of your car, your front door, pointing a gun to people's heads. We've got these criminals that are threatening Peel residents and their families. And that's why it's so important at all levels of government that we fund the police, give them tools that they need to catch these scumbags and throw them into jail. And with that in mind, I want to be I'm very proud to build on our record of previous announcements from the Ontario government that we'll be investing $7.6 million to the Community Safety and Policing Initiative to give tools to our Peel police officers here today. Investing in police is investing in safe streets. It's investing in peace of mind for our residents, and it continually boggles my mind when we put these types of investments in place. And sure enough, you're always going to hear some naysayers. We hear it at Queen's Park. There are people that think that this money would be better spent somewhere else. Charitably, they'll say, oh, there's another investment you can make. Sometimes they're bold enough to say that we should just defund the police altogether. If we didn't make these investments that we've made, if we didn't invest in the STEP program from Peel Police, that's 54 guns that these guys took off the street last year. And I'm excited for a big number this year. That wouldn't have happened if we didn't invest in the police. Peel Police took 236 guns off the street totally last year. They're putting their lives on the line. They're putting themselves at risk, not only physically, but mentally as well. Seeing heinous situations, dealing with the most heinous scumbags in our region to keep people safe. And that not only is that a physical toll, but there's a mental toll to that as well that we always have to be aware of. My message to any politician that thinks that we shouldn't be investing in police, I'd say, if you want safe streets, you need to invest in the police. If you want a strong economy, you need to invest in the police. If you want kids and families to feel at home in their community and feel safe in their community, you need to be investing in police. And that's something that our government does. That's something that our Premier does. That's something that my colleagues Charmaine, Sylvia, Sharif, and all the Peel Region MPPs do every single day. Through our investment in the Ontario Police College, Peel Police has been able to put 300 officers onto the streets this year. The highest number that they'd ever done prior was 200. And that's not just our work, that's the work of Region of Peel and the Peel Police Service Board making these investments, these focused investments. We've invested as a government over $134 million in helicopters for police services, including one right here in Peel region that's coming soon. And we've invested in the guns, gangs, and violence reduction strategy, funding programs like the STEP program, funding programs like investigations through Criminal Intelligence Service Ontario, like Project Ghost that we saw in July, 13 individuals that were arrested, 5 on bail. Maybe we'll get to that another time. But we still got work to do there. But these investments matter. I'm proud to be part of a government that does that. We will always make sure that we do everything we can to keep people safe and to invest in our frontline officers that do so well for us each and every day.
Our government, and if governments do not protect their residents with law and order, they're definitely not doing their job. So this is a great event so that we can make sure that everyone understands that policing is a top priority to keep our residents safe. I am proud to be here to highlight more than $7.6 million in new funding for the Peel Regional Police through Ontario's Community Safety and Policing Grant Program. This investment is part of our government's $91 million commitment to help protect families, communities right across Ontario. And it is proof that we will never bend on community safety. Keeping our community safe isn't just a priority for us, it is a promise. Every family in Peel deserves to feel safe in their home, on their street, and in their workplace. So the government is backing a tailored solution for communities' hot-button public safety concerns. This funding will help create a dedicated gang prevention and enforcement unit for 4 officers. It supports Peel Police to strengthen its process to ensure that public complaints are logged, tracked, and acted upon. Funding for the Community Safety and Policing Grant will allow Peel Regional Police to establish a dedicated hate crime unit to investigate and respond to hate-motivated crimes and incidences with specialized expertise. We are also strengthening Peel Police response to mental health and addiction calls. The idea is to quickly connect people to help while easing the burden on our dedicated frontline officers. I'm also happy to note that our government is doubling down on tracking intimate partner violence. We are stepping up to enhance Safe Center response team programs with dedicated overtime budget to ensure full coverage without pulling officers from the front line. Let me also touch upon the Community Intervention Response Team, CIRT. I visited 22 Division recently and saw firsthand the difference CIRT makes. With this funding, Peel Police can deploy 48 additional CIRT officers, 24 for Brampton and 24 for Mississauga. These officers will be put out on the community, building relationships with residents, addressing homelessness, youth engagement, public disorder, and repeat nuisance complaints before they escalate. We are equipping the Peel Police with tools to prevent crime before it starts and act decisively when it happens. And because organized retail theft affects every consumer and undermines our economy, the Peel Police will receive $500,000 to execute 3 high-impact organized retail blitz operations with major retailers to disrupt and dismantle organized networks supported by crime analysts and data scientists. Promoting safety, modernizing policing, and prioritizing victims go hand in hand. And this grant shows our commitment to policing and compassion and firmness. Let me reiterate that all these efforts are underpinned by modern evidence-based policing while reflecting our emphasis on governance, operational excellence, and technical support. Our message to the people of Peel is clear. We will invest in your safety, we will support your police, and we will hold the line on crime.
So on behalf of my colleagues, I want to thank the Government of Ontario, the Ministry of the Solicitor General, and Minister Graham McGregor for this very important investment through the Community Safety and Policing Grant Program. This announcement represents more than $7.6 million for Peel, funding that will directly support 7 local projects and 1 provincial initiative. It's a clear demonstration of the province's commitment to keep our communities safe. Policing today is more complex than ever. Communities like ours in Peel face challenges around gun and gangs, transitional organized crime, hate-motivated incidents, intimate partner violence, and the intersecting crisis of mental health and addictions. Addressing these issues requires innovation, collaboration, and above all, resources. This grant gives Peel Regional Police the ability to strengthen frontline responders while also investing in prevention and partnerships that address the root causes of harm. From expanding community intervention response teams in every division to enhancing mental health supports to launching a dedicated hate crime unit, these projects will make a real and measurable difference in people's lives. For our board, it's also more than just about the numbers on the page. It's about ensuring that residents of Brampton and Mississauga can have confidence that their police service has the tools and the capacity to respond to today's challenges while preparing for tomorrow's. It's also about reinforcing the shared responsibility we all carry: municipal government, police government's bodies, law enforcement, and the province in keeping Ontario safe. Once again, I want to thank Premier Ford, Solicitor General Michael Kersner, Minister McGregor, and every Peel MPP for recognizing the urgent needs of our growing and diverse communities and for making public safety a clear priority. And I want to give a special shout out in that regard, to the Premier and the team that we have here in Peel. I've said before, I'll say it again, I've never been a member of a political party, and in my 38 years, I've worked with all of them. None have been better to Peel than the team we have now at Queen's Park with the Premier and the dedicated MPPs that I have. If you're keeping score, I hope you all enjoyed the summer, but many of my MPPs know, and my colleagues, I think this is the 6th announcement in 90 days that we've had in Peel. Just recently had that beautiful announcement at Peel Manor with all the funding that came from our colleagues. And I've got a secret. I got a lot of secrets. They'll be in the book I'll never write, but I'm going to tell one now. I as much as I extol all the MPPs do and this government does, I almost want to keep the light under a bushel because I'm afraid the rest of the province might find out. It is remarkable that the resources that they have brought to Peel. I also want to single out the Premier as well and my police services boards for this. I give Doug and his team great credit. As Minister McGregor said, they were ahead of the curve at understanding how important crime and not feeling safe is in Ontario. They were ahead of the curve. Everybody's catching on now. To my police services board colleagues, we were ahead of the curve when we went ahead and hired 300 officers last year. Sort of ahead of the curve, as I say, and took some criticism because it cost taxpayers a fair chunk of money in addition to what the province gave.
We are absolutely pleased to welcome the announcement for our community safety policing grant and are excited about the opportunities that this allows us to do for the well-being of our communities. The over $7 million of investment has, as Minister Gaultieri has highlighted, will allow us to continue to do some remarkable work. But can I tell you why it's important? Have you ever seen a time in our world where the emphasis on mitigating hate and hate-related crimes has been so important? It has always been a priority for Peel Regional Police. But what it's allowed us to do is enhance our capacity to dedicate officers to a single unit that is not just dissolved around the region and the organization, but providing a specialized unit that is focused exclusively on hate-motivated crimes. This is not only going to show the community our investment that we take it seriously and we won't stand for it in our region, but it allows us to be more effective at the prosecution, detection of hate-motivated incidents and investigations. It's an assurance to our community that we are pressing into those spaces that we hear from them are extremely important. As you've heard, the expansion of our crisis intervention response teams, which was piloted in 2024, is a visible presence, and you'll see some of them here today, but they're in our communities. We hear from the public. We not only need you to come and arrive when we call for your help, but we want to be able to see you visibly in the neighborhoods that need that presence. And our CERT teams have been a viable extension of that, and thankfully, this allows us to press into neighborhood concerns in a way that we haven't done before. The strengthening of our commitment to community safety well-being, which is multi-sector responses, is at the heart of everything we do here at Peel. And our Safe Center response team, which is the combination of highly trained intimate partner violence officers, investigators, combined with social workers that are specialized in that space, allow us to attend low-level intimate partner violence, domestic violence, verbal disputes, which we know, if you look at the cycle of violence, if we can mitigate that, we can prevent the harm in our communities. And we know this aligns directly with the province's emphasis on family and intimate partner violence. In addition to that, we're expanding our integrated addiction partnership with community agencies that we see a lot of harm in our community that are sometimes conflated with crime. It allows us to turn the dial down on that as well. Our ability to enhance our mental health capacity and response, as you know, we're very thankful for having a mental health crisis worker with a uniformed officer, but what we're doing is increasing our bench strength of officers that are trained in that space. And it is an alternative to traditional responses of policing. As you heard, our ability to disrupt crime and organized crime is critical to us. We at Peel are very proud of our investigative capacity and the remarkable officers, analysts, and civilians that tend to get gun and gang violence. But the addition of 4 officers to this team for the complaint information tracking system, it sounds very complicated, but it's the linkage between what the public does when they call, they're concerned about a house or problem in their neighborhood, and our ability to investigate and respond to it. But it allows our strategic enforcement policing initiative to respond in a better way and more coordinated. It also is expanding our crime analytics capacity and intelligence capacity that ensures that we are driving our responses in an evidence-based manner. I can tell you at Peel, we are very proud of our women and men, and we are thankful that we can give them the tools, not just from a police services board capacity, from the advocacy that we're getting, but I do want to echo Chair Unika's comments. We are extremely privileged and grateful for the investment from this province in the form of grant funding to come alongside of us. You know, if you give us the resources, we can absolutely do more. And our job is to show you the outcomes of that. Thank you for the commitment from the province to Peel Regional Police. We thank you for your continued advocacy of public safety. I cannot tell you in my 30 years have I ever seen a time that the emphasis on public safety needs to be forefront. We're the foundation for a healthy community, and we're very thankful for this announcement today.
It's great to get this support from the province. The Premier has been unequivocal in his support for law enforcement, and we're grateful for that. They're the ones who run towards danger when everyone else runs away. And the announcement is very timely. You know, last year we presented a $750 million operational budget, and it tested the limits of what we can afford on the property tax bill. And, you know, we were having literally in a budget discussion today, difficult conversations because there's always more than we want to do, than we have the capacity to do. So to have this announcement of $7.6 million allows us to have conversations that entertain investments that may not have been possible before. And I just want to say one thing I appreciate in particular is that this funding envelope really targets mental health and addictions. We're seeing synthetic opioids, fentanyl, that is more dangerous than ever before. And I hear these heartbreaking stories where lives are shattered and taken because of the prevalence of this dangerous substance in our communities. So to have that Peel Police focus on addictions and mental health is so important. We don't want to hear these, we don't want to get these phone calls about a son or a daughter who lost their life because of being in a local park. And so this equips the Peel Police to lean into mental health and addictions, and of course a number of other areas that these investments are helpful. So once again, thank you to our provincial government for always being here to support the Peel Police.
We have the self-defense laws here in Canada. When we talk to our federal counterparts, they say we have the self-defense laws here. Because we have the lawmakers here from the Queen's Park. What we are doing, because the Canadians are being deprived of their first Defense of Act, there is a terminology used that excessive force. Why can't we change that terminology and do the self-defense laws exist? If yes, then why homeowners being charged when intruders, they attack their families, and intruders are not being charged by the excessive force? Why the homeowners being charged, and what lawmakers can do it? Because we hardly get a chance to ask these questions to the federal counterparts, but we get their statements on this. What can we do together with the help of policing, with the Queen's Park, with the Parliament? How can we safeguard because funding is one part, but changing the laws to make it convenient, to give more resources by changing the laws to policing, how can we fix that?
So thank you for the question. I think Premier Ford's been abundantly clear on our government's stance on this issue. You should have the right to defend yourself in your own home. You know, some scumbag, armed or not, knocking on the door, and you don't know, right? And you got a family at home, and we're seeing violent home invasions happening more and more. You know, I'll note, auto theft in Peel region and across Ontario is way down. Not down enough. We got more to do, but you're seeing that we're seeing criminals be more brazen in their attempts. So there's more home invasions, there's more of the violent interactions. that are happening, and people got to be able to defend themselves in their own home. And I was really happy to see Solicitor General Kersner, Attorney General Doug Downey, with some other folks from our government write a letter earlier this week reiterating that call. They reiterated the call for better self-defense laws so you can protect your own home. But they also reiterated some of the calls that we've been making as a government for years now around bail reform and stricter sentences. Mandatory minimum sentences for firearms is something the federal government took away under Prime Minister Trudeau. 4 years minimum for an illegal loaded firearm. I think everybody can understand that that's reasonable. 3 strikes, if you're out and hauled in front of a judge 3 times in a row, at that point, we don't feel bail should be an option for people. And we think for the most heinous crimes, murder, kidnapping, etc., that bail just shouldn't even be an option. We're seeing the same scumbags get let out time and time again committing the same crimes. Not only does that make our communities less safe, it impacts the ability of police services, including Peel, but all of them across Ontario, to do their job to keep people safe. When they lay an arrest and lay charges, we got to lock these guys up and put them away for a long time.
Mayor, such a big announcement, 7.6 million of funding to the Peel Police and Services Board. Great announcement. And you were one of the biggest advocate for giving more resources to the policing. What do you have to say today, Sima?
It's helpful. We have a $750 million police budget. We get an extra $7 million. It helps us do things that may not have otherwise been financially possible. This is going to allow for some further investments in dealing with addictions, mental health challenges in the region, those who are struggling with criminality and the use of opioids. And so we welcome the $7 million. And as always, anytime a senior level of government wants to contribute to helping us keep Peel region safe, we take that support with open arms.
What is the crime level in the Peel region? Basically, if you have some data to share, does it went up in the previous years?
Well, I'd say we're making more arrests, which is a good thing. I think before, because of a lack of frontline capacity, there were some people that were evading justice. And so certainly we're charging more individuals. It'll be up to the Justice Department whether they are convicted or released. But what I would say is when we get phone calls from residents, whether it's a home invasion or any act of criminality, our response times have dramatically improved.
Still, you are advocating for bringing the changes in our laws, either as provincially or federally?
Yeah, I think all levels of government have to step up. We're stepping up locally with 300 new police officers. Excuse me. But we, at the same time, we need additional capacity in our correctional system. They're overflowing. We need more crowns, more interpreters at the courthouse, which is provincial. Federally, we need changes to the Youth Criminal Justice Act. We desperately need bail reform. As we talked about today, we need updated laws for the right to self-defense. And so there is a role for all levels of government to play. I'm never a fan of pointing fingers. I've always said we all need to own our responsibilities and do so collaboratively. Everyone cares about public safety, and we all need to step up.
Final question, about the speed cameras. We got many suggestions from the community that speed cameras might be working. They reduce the speeds in the cities, many municipalities. And they had a suggestion that why don't we threshold from 10 km per hour to 25 km per hour. Then it won't be a tax grab, because 25 is a good threshold, and also along with the speed bumpers and flashing lights, because the inventory is there. The speed cameras technology already invested with the legislation. Now with the legislation, if it has to go, but many people, they are not in the favor that it should go, because we province or cities, they invested into that. What is your point?
Yeah, when the province introduced this, a lot of cities spent money. And so we built the infrastructure as per the province's legislation. I would say in Brampton right now, you only get a ticket if it's over 11 over.
Yes.
If the province changed it to over 25 over, we could continue to use it. What the police's perspective is that it saves lives. I support the police. We have, I support restricting it only to schools. But it's about protecting the safety of students. Some people have suggested you could put police speed traps at each school. The cost of that, according to the chief, would be impossible. It means we'd have to disband other police units. And so technology allows us to do a job that's important, that wasn't getting resources.
But giving police the access of these cameras, they could have tracked the criminals, those who are doing crime and roaming about the cities, because you also made a statement earlier on this. That could be a one tool for the policing to control the crime, because they have all the footages across the city.
Yeah. So in Brampton, our high resolution cameras are linked into 911 and police
Okay.
operations. And so we use this digital evidence as a way to make Brampton a very inconvenient place to commit a crime. If you commit a crime in Brampton, we're going to catch you, and we're going to have the best digital evidence in the country.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.